Do you really know yourself? Do you know your inner desires? Are you in control, or is your nafs? Find out more coming right up. Stay tuned.
There is no man more dear to me throughout the whole of history than the one who was sent as a guide, leading people from darkness to light. His message was simple and clear, that there is one God whom we must all fear, inviting people towards Allah. His name is Muhammad Mustafa. His name is Muhammad Mustafa.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome viewers to another episode in our series, The Ark of Noah. In the last episode we were discussing Shaitan and his eternal quest to derail and spoil the great blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the deen of Islam. And in this episode we'll be linking Shaitan with an in-depth discussion on the inner desires, or the nafs as called in Arabic. With me for this series is Sheikh Moutasem. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much once again for your presence on the set.
Thank you very much.
We always enjoy you having on the show.
Thank you.
Now Sheikh, we've been talking last time a little bit about Shaitan, and I'd like you to just recap a little bit for the viewers in what we said, and talk a little bit more about why Shaitan is an enemy and what is the meaning of the enemy.
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah. Thank you very much, Abdullah. Shaitan is a very important topic for us, really, because if you know, or if you are told that there is someone who has dedicated his life to get you, he's there to get you, you're his target, obviously you will take all the precautions to be on the safe side.
So if he was a real person, then you'd be taking precaution, yeah. But it's because obviously our problem is, he's the unseen here, isn't it?
That's it. And there's a problem as well with taking the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala seriously. Most people just take it for granted that we are Muslims and that's it, we're going to make it to paradise. No, you need to be careful, because Allah gives us the instructions that Shaitan is your enemy, so take him as an enemy. It means that you have to be on guard all the time against Shaitan. And don't forget that the problem with Shaitan is he has dedicated his life to get you, to send you to the hellfire. So it's sort of, we say in Arabic, alayya wa ala a'da'i. I bring destruction to myself and to my enemies. So Shaitan to me is the first suicide bomber in history. He has set out, determined to destroy himself and destroy us with him. So this is why he said, فَبِعِزَّتِكَ لَأُغْوِيَنَّهُمْ أَجْمَعِينَ. He said, that's the story of my life, that's the mission of my life, to destroy humanity. So if he has, he has placed all of his resources, all of his life, all of his energy, everything he has to destroy us, that means he is determined to get us, and he will never settle for anything less than that. So unless you're ready, unless you at least pay attention and counteract that kind of aggression against yourself, or that offensive against yourself, you will not, definitely he's going to get you.
Sheikh, one of the ways that I sometimes think about it is that, and I'm actually, as my brothers always tell me, a very competitive person, but one of the ways that I think about it is, if I was having a game or whatever, and I just gifted a point, like in a game of squash or something, or tennis or whatever, or a goal, or scored an own goal, as you mentioned last time. If I did that and I saw how happy my enemy was, the fact that I'd done myself harm, Shaitan, he also gets happy, doesn't he? So if we thought about it in terms of, he gets happy and I don't want him to be happy.
That would be a very practical thing, to take it as a competition, and that he's your opponent, he's your enemy. You don't want to give him any points against yourself. Obviously, you can exploit, or not exploit, you can just use and take the fruits of that very human nature, that we are generally competitive and we have this spirit of competing and the willingness to win. Obviously, this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us about shaitan. Allah is telling us that he is there to win, so don't let him win that war against you.
So Shaykh, can you just mention and remind of some of the tools that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put in the Quran and through his messenger Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam in the Sunnah to help us deal with shaitan?
Yes, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a full system, a full strategy that we find it in the Quran. We can always find the details of it in the Sunnah, but we have to develop the right attitude. Unless we have an attitude, we won't be able to distill that strategy. Just like in a war, rationally speaking, if we are in a state of war against any nation, the first thing we do is to study our enemy, study their strategy, and then come up with something to counter that. It's the same thing with shaitan. So the tools Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us are so many. First thing, Allah gives us tawheed, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, which means, tawheed means direction. Tawheed is based and is on worship, and the essence of worship is love that is mixed with awe, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And love and fear, they have to do with direction. When we love something, we say this is the passion of my life. That means this is the thing that you love most. It means you have developed enough energy, enough direction to get there. So tawheed is about direction. Now if you are so much focused on your direction, on your ultimate goal, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, shaitan will not be able to derail you. You can keep on track. It's just if you starve someone for 10 days and you put just food on the corner of this studio, even if you put 10 people and if you break this, or you let this person loose and he has access to that food, even if you try to get 10 people to stop him from getting to that food, I think it will be very difficult for them to do that. Why? Because he has developed enough focus, enough energy, enough direction to get there. Nothing is going to stop him. It's the same thing if you have developed enough knowledge about Allah, enough love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have developed that energy to get there. That's the most powerful tool that shaitan can never deal with.
And what about seeking refuge with Allah?
Obviously that follows from tawheed. When you have developed enough knowledge about Allah, enough love for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will give you more than that.
So you will automatically return to him anyway.
Definitely. And obviously you have to express that. You seek refuge, you just, because that's part of tawheed. Oh Allah, we know that you are our only refuge against shaitan.
Inshallah. So Shaykh, we're going to move on to talk about nafs as the focus of this episode. Now, what exactly is the nafs? What is the desires of the son of Adam?
Yeah. The issue of a nafs is very interesting because there's an intersection here between Islam and the study of human behavior. Whether you call it psychology, sociology, anthropology, Islam is a very deep way of life. It's a comprehensive way of life. This is why it has to do with everything that we have in this world. The Muslim scholars really have wonderful contributions when it comes to the study of human behavior. And for example, Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, Imam Ibn Qayyim, they have very clear explanation that really it supersedes and it puts modern psychology to shame when it comes to the study of human behavior. A summary of human behavior is basically, we are designed to behave and to act in a certain way. We have in the center of our heart what we can call the golden triangle. The golden triangle, it has to do with how we behave. Why do we do the things we do? Why do we pursue certain things? Why do people behave in a certain way? At the center of that is knowledge. Knowledge and comprehension. Once you have knowledge of something and comprehend it, your heart will move towards it. This is what we call the passion, the love, and this is the desire. This is when you develop a desire. For example, a man sees a woman who's not properly dressed. Automatically, that sight, that image of the woman will go straight from the eye to the heart. The heart comprehends it, it develops the desire.
So Shaykh, are you saying that desires are developed, or are they innate from the nature of creation, so that even when they were born, then we were like that.
The desire is there. It's there, but it needs something to give it rise.
Right. Okay.
Okay, something to spark it.
Mm.
The thing that sparks that desire is knowledge, or a comprehension of something, or an inception of something. So when for example, the sight of food, it moves, or it gives rise to the desire of hunger and the need to have food. So this is how we behave. Shaitan tries to exploit both knowledge, comprehension, and desire. He manipulates knowledge so that when you have the wrong knowledge, you'll have the wrong desire, the wrong motivation. This is what this is the importance of knowledge. When we have the right knowledge, we will have the right desires.
So we hope. So we hope.
Inshallah.
So, Sheikh, what are the effects on the believer of nafs and, let's say, increasing the desires, the base desires of the human, the eating, the, conjugal relations, etc. What are the effects on the believer of the nafs?
As I said, human beings cannot have more than one direction. You either have an interest, you develop an interest in the eternal realities of life, that is, what is the meaning of our existence, who is our creator, what is our relationship with him?
The big questions of life, right?
That's it, the big questions of life. If you develop an interest in that area, then you will look at the desires as base ones, as a very low and or a level you would not prefer to stoop to. So you'd prefer to be...
So again, you're saying that this is really relating to Tawheed again, isn't it? It's saying that, when you elevate the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that becomes the focus of your life, and you taste the faith, the beauty of faith that comes with that, then when you look at the other things, so just the value you have of food is very little, isn't it, really? Because it's just something that keeps you going for your goal.
Definitely. And this is why even Western philosophers, they say we are creatures of goals. We are creatures, we are designed to have goals and to chase goals. We always do this. So it depends on what is your ultimate goal in life. It determines how you're going to see the whole world, how you interpret everything that happens. For example, if your heart is attached to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah is your ultimate goal. You just look at food as a means to survive. That's it. Whereas someone who's mainly worried about his stomach and his passion is just in food, tasting different cuisines, and it's all about taste. This person will start to develop, and the ultimate goal will start to go to the direction of food. So what pleases them, what upsets them is food. So the whole life becomes centered around food. Some people's lives are centered around conjugal or sexual life. So this is, you decide where you go. Shaitan plays on that. Shaitan tries to push you to the direction of carnal desires, low desires, so that he can control your desire and thus your actions.
Okay, Sheikh, thank you very much. Stay with us. We'll be back with more after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Islam is a comprehensive way of life. It deals with everything. The Prophet ﷺ wanted to empower people, and he wanted them to feel the responsibility, not just to rely on the state. The companions radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and in particular Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali, in the beginning they were not pleased and they were not proud to become the Khalifa. These days we see the candidates running to become the emirs. Islamic State has to provide all inhabitants with the basic needs. It has to fulfill their basic needs. One of the main foundations of the Islamic State is to establish justice.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, everybody, our viewers watching the Ark of Noah. Now, before the break, we were having a recap on the nature of shaitan, and we were linking into the main focus of the topic, the inner desires that we've all been created with. Sheikh Moutasem, I want to bring you back a little bit. We discussed the nature of shaitan and the nature of nafs. What can you just summarize for us, really, that the nature or the relationship between nafs and shaitan? How do they interact together to derail or deviate the believers from the right path?
Okay, just trying to summarize. It's a very long story, but just trying to put it in simple terminology and put it in a very basic level, so all people have access to it. We human beings are designed in a certain way. The way we behave, as I said, depends on knowledge and perception. Once we perceive something, we develop a desire or an emotion towards that thing. Okay. It's either love or hatred. We're either inclined to something, or we just, we're pushed away from something emotionally. And this is where the sequence is knowledge or understanding, then desire or motivation, you can call it, and then action. This is how we behave. So this is why knowledge is very important, because it leads basically to action. Shaitan knows that equation.
So you have a natural desire, the base desires, then those base desires are stimulated by something that happens in the situation, the environment around you.
Yes.
Then you you react to that in the heart, you incline to it, or you disincline from it.
Yeah.
And then that produces from that the ability to then act upon your feeling stroke knowledge inside the heart.
Definitely, and this is what shaitan tries to exploit.
So where along that chain does he come? What does he do?
Excellent, that's a very good question. This is what when Allah talks about shaitan, Allah says, يَعِدُهُمْ وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ. Shaitan gives you false hope. So the first strategy or technique that shaitan uses, he tries to give you the wrong impression. So shaitan, the first wrong impression shaitan tries to give you is that that you're only going to live this life. There's no next life.
So he goes straight to the big question, which is the belief in the akhirah.
Definitely, because these questions are very central. If shaitan can control the answers to these questions, he can control your behavior. So once you get the impression, once you are under the impression that I'm only going to live for 60 or 70 years, your whole psychology changes, your whole motivation changes.
So he's got you.
Yeah,
he's going to get you, isn't he? Yeah.
You'll say, if I'm living here for 60 years, I'd better make the best out of this life. Use everything, enjoy everything there.
I'm going to have to apologize to my father, but this is my father. He is, I'm going to live for 60, 65 years, and I've got to do the best. I've got to enjoy myself the most I possibly can.
Yeah, and this is where shaitan tries to get. As I said, this is when shaitan gets to knowledge. Sometimes shaitan doesn't manage to get to your knowledge, so he goes to the second step in the equation, which is motivation.
So what we're saying is the knowledge is sound. You've understood and you've comprehended in the right way.
Yes.
And you've managed to defeat shaitan at one stage, and then
shaitan, what he does, he sets a siege over knowledge in order to make it inactive or obsolete. So it doesn't bring about the motivation that you would like to have based on this knowledge. So this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَعِدُهُمْ وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ. He gives them what? False hope or false emotions about certain things. So for example, a person knows that, for example, zina or fornication or adultery is haram. But shaitan pumps up that motivation or that desire in them by placing them, especially by placing them in an environment that pushes them towards that direction. So they know it is haram, they know it's harmful, but shaitan managed to break the link between knowledge and desire so that he takes control of that desire. Once he takes the lead of you, then he will push you to do that. Once you have the desire, you will come to a stage where you cannot control your actions.
And then he pushes you up the levels of intensity and extremity in fulfilling those desires.
Definitely. So this is where shaitan comes, and this is where you have to keep your guard on. your knowledge, your understanding, your perception of the world, your perception of yourself, and your mission in life. That's number one. Second one is that your desires. You have to make sure that your motivation is in line with your correct knowledge.
SubhanAllah. Now, let's talk about, we mentioned extremities here, of the nafs and the desires, and climbing those levels towards shaitan and away from Allah. What are the symptoms of this? That's the first question. What are the symptoms? How do I know that, oh, I'm far away? How can I realize that?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us a compass, and that's in our hearts. It is the fitrah. The fitrah is always there.
So what do you mean exactly by fitrah?
Okay, the fitrah is like a seed. It's the natural disposition or the natural state we are created in. As human beings, we are created pure. Generally created pure. We have the tendency to, naturally, we have the tendency to do good things and to do bad things. But the fitrah is some kind of a head start that Allah gives us. How does it fit this description, a head start? It's a head start because when you do wrong, the fitrah doesn't feel comfortable. It makes you feel depressed, makes you feel annoyed, makes you feel guilty. This is why sometimes people tell you have to get rid of this complex of this guilt complex. Don't feel guilty about anything. No, that's a healthy sign.
Yes.
Your very nature is telling you this is not what you are created for. You're not moving, or you're not heading to the right direction. So be careful. You have to make changes.
So being uncomfortable in the action or the situation. What else was there?
Yeah, it's basically the fitrah. The fitrah always tells you if you do something wrong, it won't make you feel comfortable.
Yes, guilt was the other one, wasn't it? So being uncomfortable and guilt. Is there anything else in there that we can use as a gauge? Is there anything else that comes to mind?
No, these are only original signals, and they push you to seek further knowledge. The full guidance, complete guidance, is in the Quran and the Sunnah. It's in the divine knowledge. But this compass gives you indicators, very preliminary indicators. That is just like when you're traveling and you're trying to head, like, for example, you're trying to head from Cairo to Alexandria. You have to keep heading north. Now, if you're heading east, the compass is still pointing north. You have to know you're doing something wrong. But you cannot solely depend on a compass. You need a map, obviously. The map is there in the Quran and the Sunnah. But your fitrah is some sort of a compass that tells you that's not the right direction. You have to seek further knowledge.
So we can know by the fitrah, the feeling in the heart which has been placed in us, and by extension, and the colour map being the Quran and Sunnah, which we can obviously comprehend in a way that it's in front of us. It's actually there, and we can read it rather than as a feeling in the heart. Sheikh, what in terms of, we talked about nafs now, and we are in the modern society constantly being invoked by shaitan to do this, eat this, have another burger, these sort of things. How can we control the nafs, and what guidance is there from the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in doing so?
Yes, okay. When we talked about human behavior, we said there is first the knowledge or the impression or the perception, then there is the desire or motivation, and then there is the action. Now, when the scholars talk about nafs, mainly they're talking about the second stage, which is the motivation, the desires, especially in a negative sense. So in order to control our desires or our motivation, we have to control our perception of the world. Get your compass right, get your map, get the right map of the world that tells you the realities, that answers the big questions. What is the meaning of my existence? Who's my creator? Where did I come from? What am I doing here? And where I am heading to?
And the answer to that is to board the Ark of Noah.
Definitely. Once you get these answers and you get on board, then you will naturally, your desires will work for you in your favor. So your desires will be inclined to worshipping Allah and loving Allah and helping people and doing the right things. And by the way, the Prophet ﷺ alluded to that. He said that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Qudusi hadith, a divine hadith, he says that my servant does so much righteousness until I love him. And if I love him, I'll be his hand with which he acts, and his leg with which he walks, and I will be his tongue with which he speaks. What does this mean? Allah will cause all your desires to be channeled to the way leading you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Subhanallah.
So this is how you control your desires. Get the right answers, hold on to them, focus on them, then your desires naturally will lead you to Allah.
Subhanallah. And how important is, because obviously nafs are commanding to do the base things that we all need as humans, and shaitan is whispering away, trying to get you to follow your nafs. How important is patience in trying to deal with the nafs and get them facing the right way in terms of its direction?
Yes, patience is a very significant element in the equation of a Muslim character. And the way to get patience is to get the right answers. Once you know that this life is not the whole thing, and my home is really in paradise, because we were first designed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first placed our father Adam in paradise. We're supposed to get back to our home. Once you know that if I put up with challenges in this world, I will make it to paradise, you will develop patience. So the secret to patience is having the right answers.
Thank you very much, Sheikh. Sheikh Moutasem, helping us through the difficult times and the waves of trials. We hope that this has been a benefit to you viewers. We look forward to having you again with us on the show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
There is no man more dear to me throughout the whole of history than the one who was sent as a guide, leading people from darkness to light. His message was simple and clear, that there is one God whom we must all fear, inviting people towards Allah. His name is Muhammad Mustafa.